You may or may not be thinking about moving to Atlanta, but based on the title, you're probably wondering why Money Magazine, Money.com, has named Atlanta the absolute best place in the US to live, and that's exactly what we're going to cover in this video. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about eating, sleeping, working, playing, the good and the bad of living in Atlanta, Georgia, well, subscribe below and ring the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know when we release new content and stay up to date on the Atlanta real estate market. My name's Denny. The team and I get calls each and every day from people just like you looking to make the move to Atlanta, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving next week, next year, or anytime in between, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. Would be happy to help you make a smooth move to Atlanta. As I mentioned, Money Magazine, Money.com has named Atlanta the #1 best place to live in all of the United States. Money Magazine said our goal this year was to name a #1 where anyone can feel like they belong. So that was their goal. If you'll stick around to the very end, we'll do a market update, tell you how all of these factors impact you, your life, your lifestyle, and the real estate market here in Atlanta. So let's get on that tour. In November of 1864, General Sherman, after Georgia or Atlanta was captured, burnt the whole city down. And it was from those ashes, from those rubble, that Atlanta emerged as first a U.S. and then a global place. And in 2022, we're talking about tourism, real estate development, tech companies, small business, big business, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, everything in between. This is a very culturally diverse city. I'm here at the Martin Luther King Jr. Historic National Park, across from the Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolent Social Change. Martin Luther King Jr. was a central figure in the civil rights movement, and Atlanta was a central place for the civil rights movement. And so whether you're moving in town, out of town, or anywhere around, our goal, it feels like a shared responsibility to kind of create a culture and an environment that's welcoming to all people of all backgrounds, races, demographics, social, economic. That's really what this city is all about. Right down the street, you have an area near Mercedes-Benz called the West Side Future Fund, WFF, and that fund was really created to kind of help support small businesses who would otherwise struggle with rising rents with all this big corporate money comes into town, because with economic growth, you know, sometimes you push out the little guy. So the West Side Future Fund helps those small businesses so that they can find a place to run a business economically and profitably, and as well as some local residents whose taxes are going up and things of that nature. So we don't want to completely displace everyone just as a result of economic growth, but let's face it, with growth becomes change. And if I ask you, hey, if you look up 10 years from now, you're exactly where you are today, you probably wouldn't like it. So we're all resistant and hesitant to change. Atlanta is growing, it is changing, it's grown a lot since 1864, but we want to do it responsibly, and we want to make it a place where everyone, like you, can come, enjoy it, and call it home. Atlanta's known for a lot of things, a lot of industries, and a few of those are movies, music, and sports. A lot of people don't know this, but Atlanta has actually become, or the state of Georgia has become, the #1 place in the world for the production, filming of movies and TV shows. Shows like Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy, and one of my favorites on Netflix is Ozark. Movies like Anchorman, Captain America, Ford versus Ferrari, and you'll often see like the little signs around town where they're filming. It's also home to many music artists like Usher, Justin Bieber, Outkast, John Mayer, Ludacris, Sugarland, and even Future. I'm here at the Battery in Atlanta. Here behind me you can see Truist Park, which is where the Braves play their old stadium. Georgia State University football team actually plays in there now. But this place, not just a stadium, it is surrounded by commercial, residential, hotels, restaurants, boutiques. One of the things Atlanta was really missing, at least with regards to baseball, I used to live in Chicago and would go to Wrigley Field, watch the Cubs play, and after the game, all the businesses in Wrigleyville would just explode with people. But you were really missing that here in Atlanta. Atlanta, and as an Atlanta native, I was always really jealous. And now you have that at the Battery. Actually, during the game, this place is full of people watching the game in all of these bars and restaurants. But after the game, all those people pour out of the stadium and into these bars and restaurants. There's tons of excitement, tons of energy. It's just a really amazing experience. So let's go check out Mercedes-Benz. Well, of course, a video about Atlanta being the best city in the country wouldn't be complete without sports. We are home to the Atlanta Falcons, which play right here. Also there is my favorite sports team, which is the Atlanta United, our soccer team. I'm at most of those games. If you follow me, you know I'm a big fan. And let's not forget about basketball. State Farm Arena is right there. That is where the Atlanta Hawks play, and they always make the playoffs. They do well. One of the things that I love about Atlanta sports is it's really diverse in terms of its fan base. Hispanic, black, white, young, old, gay, straight, family, single, everything in between. You'll find it at a game, and you'll find it right here. Atlanta has a thriving economy with the 4th fastest growing economy in the country. Job growth is outpacing the rest of the U.S., so unemployment is lower than the rest of the U.S. So here's a little excerpt from Money Magazine. It says, tech jobs are driving up much of the growth. Atlanta has a flourishing startup ecosystem fueled by the growing number of tech incubators and venture capital funds stationed there. Silicon Valley behemoths like Apple, Google, Amazon, Alphabet, all those companies are really driving that growth and have all recently opened up shop in Atlanta as the new and popular billion-dollar startup. Speaking of startups, this is the Atlanta Tech Village. It was opened, I want to say in 2015. You're talking about over 300 plus startups have come out of the Tech Village. They've created 7,300 plus jobs and raised over 1.2 billion in capital, which means it's kind of like co-working for tech people. You can find talent, you can get a mentor, you can raise money. There are a couple of really notable startups out of there. One is Calendly, the scheduling app. So the tech industry is booming here in Atlanta, but the overall economy is booming too, and tech is just one of those driving that trend. And Atlanta has some of the best universities in the country. I'm here at the Georgia Tech campus. I don't know if you can see their football stadium. It's Bobby Dodd. It's right back there. It's a technology school, obviously, and it was voted by Money Magazine as one of the top 10 universities. I want to say number 6 in the country. And right here behind me, that is actually their dorms. That was the Olympic athlete dorms in 1996. Fun fact, if you want to watch college football, you're probably not going to want to be a Georgia Tech student. If you want a good football team, UGA, the University of Georgia, is in Athens, but the Dogs won the national championship last year. I'm a big Georgia fan, but I didn't go to the University of Georgia. A lot of Georgia fans don't. I wanted to play soccer, so if you want to do that, Georgia State University is right back there in downtown. But this dorm room was actually my dorm. Georgia State had it right after the 1996 Olympics, so I moved in right after that. I graduated high school in 1996, played soccer at Georgia State University. Some of my best friends went to Georgia Tech. It's a fabulous school, but whether it's the University of Georgia, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Emory University, undergrad or grad work, Atlanta is a great place to get a higher education. Speaking of college football, the University of Georgia is not the only Division I school with a football team. Now, Georgia State has a football program. The Atlanta Braves moved from this stadium out towards the perimeter in the suburbs, and now the Georgia State football team plays in their old Braves stadium. So Money Magazine, quote, says, Atlanta has ample green space, historical relevance, a food and music scene with global influence, and an ever-expanding network of bike and walking trails. I'm here at what I would call ground zero. If you look behind me, this is the Atlanta Beltline.
The Beltline is one of the largest urban redevelopment projects underway in the United States.
I'm in an area called Old Fourth Ward. I used to live right back over here. That was not here. That was not here. Nothing down there was here. And as you can see, the Beltline now goes that way, which it did not go. Initially, it went this way. It was an old rail line, and what it has done is it now circles the entire city of Atlanta. Businesses, commercial, residential, retail, all of that stuff has popped up all along the trail. On this tour is Piedmont Park, which was kind of like the Central Park of Atlanta. This is a massive loop around the city connecting all kinds of people so that you can now walk, bike, run, use these little scooters or electric bicycles to get around. Mass transit is really a big issue in and around Atlanta, and so So the Beltline is probably the first of its kind across the country, but it's had a huge impact on Atlanta and other cities that are now trying to emulate it. So let's go check out some of those other stops. One of the things that doesn't get talked about enough here in Atlanta is the food scene. And behind me you have Hal's Steakhouse. There used to only be one story. It was just this first floor, little dive bar, hole in the wall here in actually Buckhead. And it is by far, hands down, the best steak you will ever have. You have to check it out. But it's not just about high-end steakhouses. Let me take you to my favorite breakfast place. I've been coming here for probably over 15 years. This is Ria's Bluebird Cafe. I'm telling you, the absolute hands down best pancakes ever that you'll ever have in the country. So I'm gonna head inside and eat since I'm here. Just to experience these pancakes, so yummy. So Atlanta's leadership is committed to two things, one being mass transit, the other is the infrastructure. I mean, it feels like you're in constant construction, but hopefully that they'll get ahead of it because they know that inevitably millions of people are gonna move to Atlanta over the next couple of years. If you can build that infrastructure, get prepared now, then we're not trying to play catch up, which is kind of what it feels like at this point. But one of the things other than the Beltline, which they repurposed an old rail yard, is Pont City Market. Now this was the old Sears and Roebuck warehouse. Obviously the city, in conjunction with private developers, have developed this. It went from old warehouse to the most expensive commercial real estate in all of Atlanta. And so it's got shops and restaurants and boutiques and retail and all the things you want, as well as residential and a gym, and it's right on the Beltline. Because of things like this with the exploding commercial real estate, that's why that West Side Future Fund becomes so important, helping small businesses find their place in this sea of big businesses. So Atlanta's committed to infrastructure, we're committed to mass transit, and we're committed to preparing for the millions of people like yourself that are moving here. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that tour. This is Piedmont Park, by the way, that I'm standing in. There's so many trees. There's such a huge tree canopy in Atlanta. It is called the city in the forest. On top of that, we talked about mass transit. Nothing is more massive in terms of transit than the airline industry, and Atlanta has the busiest, most efficient airport in the world. So what does all that mean for you, your life, your lifestyle, your hunt for a home or for real estate? Well, it means compared to other fast-growing cities like Austin, the cost of living in Atlanta is actually lower, and the salaries, the incomes, the median income is actually higher. So the median home price in Atlanta is $395,000. Compared to some of the other cities on the best places to live in America list, Atlanta came in at number one. The median home price for the other cities on the list, the average was around $425,000. Now, couple that with the median household income, which was just over $111,000. So the cost of living is very good here in Atlanta for a major metro area. The city has about 500,000 people in the population. The entire major metro is approaching 7 million. And so it's a large metropolitan area, but this list was really focused in on the city itself. Just in the city, there are 18,000 homes on the market. That's up from a low of just 8,000 homes about 6 months ago. And so inventory's rising. Days on market were as low as 7 or 8. Things were sitting on the market for less than a week, and now they're sitting at 31. And so it's not such a hot seller's market anymore. Buyers have a little more negotiating and leverage and a lot more choices. So on top of Atlanta being an absolute fabulous place to live and the number one place in America, according to Money Magazine, it is a great time to buy a home and to relocate to Atlanta. So if you are at all thinking about moving to Atlanta, whether it's next week, next year, or anytime in between, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move to Atlanta. We appreciate all the subscribers and viewers. If you haven't already, subscribe below, ring that bell for notifications so you can stay up to date on the market here. And until we see you in person, we'll see you on the next episode.